we are going to begin with UPSC essentials. So here we are going to begin UPSC Essentials October 2024 issue, and looking at all these pictures, फिर से वही सब यादें आती है, वही इंसिडेंट याद दिलाती है कि how close was I, but you have to begin the thing again. So यहाँ पे cover story is about semiconductor push. देखना पड़ेगा ये चीज़, सारी देखने पड़ेंगे वैसे भी. Sculptures tell us about Indian culture. ये एक culture का सीधा question. Mahatma Gandhi and Narayan Guru's ideas of non-violence. Alright. India's journey from an elite-driven project to a transformative force. Democracy. Let's see. And ये इसमें भी काम आएगा. International relations. India GCC relations. Gulf. From historical bonds to strategic dialogue. Okay. ये strengthen हो रहा है वैसे भी काफ़ी. और agriculture, shift in cropping pattern, dynamics in India and its impact. Okay. Climate resilient varieties कुछ प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने लॉन्च किए थे. Climate resilient agriculture is going to be very important for the sustainable development goals and to mitigate the effects of climate change. Environment, EIA, environmental impact assessment, navigating the development environment dilemma. ये तो है ही ये dilemma. All right. Economy, balancing the care and monetized economies for India's growth. Care economy बहुत important हो जाएगा. Population, demography भी change हो रहा है rapidly, and we have been witnessing कितना important है care work in the country. And if you integrate the care work into the proper organized economy, तब जाके there will be more services provided to people, and there will be private investment in that sector. Monetized economies, yeah. Alright then. So society, patriarchy and violence. Actually साल 2024 में society से अच्छे questions आए थे काफ़ी, तो इस पे भी understanding बढ़ा नहीं है. मतलब मैं अपने लिए नहीं बोल रहा, अब तो मेरा I just feel मुझे वो सब चीज़ मतलब I just gave the mains, and चीज़ ये हुआ कि in the last से तीसरा exam which was the language paper English, I got late by a minute and I was not given the entry to write the exam. So अभी currently I'm in the full preparation wala state. I was fully prepared. I was going to, I was expecting a very good rank. इतना अच्छा जा रहा था. I was also talking to my peers and all, so I was in the knowledge of it. Anyway, तो ये society अच्छा आया था इस बार. So I'm just going to go for this attempt just as a process. I'm not going to attach myself to the result of the coming exam. And also, if मतलब काफ़ी there's maturity and everything now, and I just need the time between prelims and mains, and 1.5 months or 2 months before prelims to do this. And this is nothing. I mean, जितना इसको hype करके इसका coaching and ये cultures ये सब बना के रखा है, इतना कुछ नहीं है. There's just hard work you need to do. Sincere hard work. Sincerity is important, and it also ethically changes you. Alright, so and also you have to develop the deep understanding. You have to be patient. It changes you as a person. You have to be patient to understand कि क्या है women के बारे में. If there's a discussion, तो क्या है उसका depth क्या है. So बहुत सारे aspirants में हम ये देखते हैं कि there's actually superficial just रटाफिकेशन ऑफ थिंग्स, फिलोसफर्स के कुछ ये वो कुछ कोट करने के लिए चीज़ें रख लो ऐसे ऐसे. तो ये आर्टिफिशियल एक्सटीरियर डेकोरेशन नहीं है ये एग्ज़ाम. यू हैव टू चेंज योर सेल्फ इंटरनली इफ़ यू मतलब नैरो माइंडेड और एनीथिंग लाइक दैट. ये इट विल रिफ्लेक्ट इन योर आंसर्स व्हेन यू राइट कि द बाउंड्रीज ऑफ योर थॉट जो आपने ड्रॉ करके रखे हैं, कि आपका एटीट्यूड कैसा है. एटीट्यूड एक टॉपिक है एथिक्स में. सो वेमेन इश्यूज़ की तरफ आपका एटीट्यूड क्या है. व्हाट डू यू थिंक ऑफ द लैंग्वेज डिबेट इन नॉर्थ एंड साउथ. व्हाट डू यू थिंक इज़ अ रीजनल लैंग्वेज एंड एन ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज. ये सब चीज़ें यू हैव टू हैव डीप अंडरस्टैंडिंग्स ऑफ देम, तभी जाके यू विल गेट अ शॉर्ट थिंग मतलब विच यू वांट. by superficially ratification and all, you'll get some rank, you'll land somewhere. Yeah, but you have to have that deep understanding to develop as a person. So issue at a glance, antimicrobial resistance. ये भी देखेंगे, मजा आएगा. क्या पहले देखें, we'll choose. The cost of being wrong is less than the cost of doing nothing. Okay. The cost of being wrong is less than the cost of doing nothing. All right, take risk. And UPSC ethics simplified: religion, ethics, and spirit of truth. Religion, ethics, and spirit of truth. Interesting. Take them. UPSC CSE Mains 2024 special article essay paper. Zillennials, Gen Z aspirants quizzed on essays about FOMO, happiness. Ethics paper 2024 Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Artificial intelligence, wars, and more. UPSC links with contemporary issues with ethics. ये पूरे ethical चीज़ों के बारे में है. Experts talk. Ethics एक area है जहाँ पे you can take the lead. बाकी GS में more or less तुम बाकियों से 10-15 मार्क्स ज़्यादा ला सकते हो if you prepare the best. कुछ ही छोटा सा एक रेंज होता है. एंड ठीक है, GS3 में थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा हो सकता है. You can score well a bit. Actually GS3 ऐसा चीज़ है where you can score well. एंड देन GS4 में काफ़ी ज़्यादा स्कोप होता है आगे बढ़ने का, लीड लेने का. एंड ऐसे तो GS3 को नेगलेक्ट नहीं करना चाहिए. एंड जो नॉर्मली जैसे पढ़ते हैं वैसे नहीं होता है यार. GS3 में यू कैन रियली बी वेरी creative and answers can go beyond what the coaching provide you as model answers. And experts talk. What did we learn from UPSC Civil Services Mains exam? I learned my own thing. All right. There's a bit of sensitive part in me still because of that event. So थोड़ी चीज़ें हैं which I don't touch yet. Yeah. UPSC current affairs pointers, prelims tidbits for the month of September. All right, ये भी देखते हैं. prelims के लिए भी तैयारी शुरू कर देते हैं. practice quiz, current affairs, revision MCQs. तो इसमें से what's the first thing that I'm gonna do is what I have to choose. So what do you think? What should I do? Semiconductor push. Let's go for that because GS3 में मज़ा आता है. Alright, we'll begin with the semiconductor push. So this is the cover story. Points to ponder. So it's a long article. It's the cover story basically. So yeah, here begins the next article. So it's about 9 pages. So you'll have to bear with me and I'll have to bear with myself because इसीलिए मैं यहाँ पे वीडियो बना रहा हूँ because मैं इतना I'm tired and exhausted in this thing because कि अब I just need to share it with some people. कुछ भी करने के लिए I need to get something more out of it. Yeah. So India's semiconductor push. Written by Roshini Yadavji. Introduction. On September 9, the US announced a new partnership with India to explore opportunities in the semiconductor supply chain. So one important aspect of the semiconductor thing is the सप्लाई चेन, और इस चेन में कौन घुस रहा है कौन निकल रहा है, is the global geopolitics about it. The announcement comes after India signed a semiconductor ecosystem partnership with Singapore. Alright, तो अपन इंडिया को भी मैप कर लेते हैं. Recent partnership with Singapore. Alright. And another one with USA. सिंगापुर वाला पार्टनरशिप भी हम देखेंगे. And additionally, Semicon India 2024 took place in Greater Noida. Okay. So Singapore के साथ we did the Semiconductor ecosystem partnership, and there's a new partnership, so just partnership. Okay. And Semicon India 2024 recently India में host किया गया. The chip war between the world's two biggest economies, US and China, has also affected the world's geopolitics, given that semiconductors are emerging as a new oil used in almost all electronic devices, with countries racing each other for a share in the manufacturing and supply network. Alright, क्योंकि सप्लाई तो चाहिए बिकॉज इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स मैन्युफैक्चर करने, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स चाहिए सबको, ऊपर से मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में भी अगर कंट्रीज का हिस्सा हो तो दे विल बी एबल टू अर्न सम थिंग्स. It is essential to know, and also dependency on external things will be reduced. Atmanirbharta. It is essential to know about the semiconductors and the status of semiconductor industry in India. So semiconductor supply and manufacturing are two different aspects. Question 1. What are semiconductors and their significance? Most modern day semiconductors are integrated circuits, ICs. Prelims में भी ये सब चीज़ें जाननी हैं चाहिए. Also referred to as chips. Okay, ICs are called chips, and semiconductors are ICs, also referred to as chips. Essentially, a set of minute electronic circuits comprising transistors, diodes, as well as capacitors, resistors, and the myriad interconnections between them. Alright. Semiconductors are majorly made up of silicon and consists of millions or billions of transistors that act like miniature electric switches that flip on and off to process data such as images, radio waves, and sounds. Beautifully written, the statement. We'll just write what we think we have to. So here's the semiconductor. Alright, so what is it made of? Transistors for sure. There are diodes, and there are capacitors, and what the other thing is? Capacitor and resistor, right? Okay, and these things are mostly made of silicon, and these things act like switches to process data. Data processing. When you understand a thing by its depth, your language starts including these words. Then your answers become better, your thoughts become better, and even it helps in prelims. Prelims is not a different game altogether. Data processing, looking at the questions lately, data processing may you process images. We have seen questions like this, images, and there are sounds that it processes, audio, and then radio waves. Alright. Semiconductors are an essential component of electronic devices, enabling advances in communications, computing, healthcare, military systems, transportation, clean energy, and countless other applications. They are highly complex products to design and manufacture that provide the essential functionality for electronic devices to process, store, and transmit data. So the data, that is the new oil, the thing which is used to refine this oil, are made up of semiconductors. Semiconductors are an essential component of electronic devices. Look at this chip. Alright. Are there any semiconductor designers here? Do you know fabs are highly specialized semiconductor manufacturing facilities that print the miniaturized integrated circuits from the chip design into the silicon wafers. Okay, fabs are highly specialized semiconductor manufacturing facilities. So perhaps these fabs can use the 3D printing technology. Hota hi hoga already. So fabs are the manufacturing facilities that print the semiconductor design into silicon wafers. Silicon wafers. All right. See, these terms, when you use them in your answer, that's when you get additional half mark or 1 mark, whatever the impression it adds up. That's what clearly is going to give you whatever you want to. Points to ponder, and you have to inculcate this into your language gradually. As you study, you make the subject your language. Every subject has its own language, and so you have to learn the vocabulary, and you have to understand the emotions and feelings and the points of conflicts in that language. There's a certain story in every subject. In every topic, it's a story, and it has its own vocabulary. You just have to tell the story. Superficial things will not give you satisfaction. Question 2. What are the challenges? What are the characteristics of semiconductors? Alright, we have seen some things. What are the challenges associated with the manufacturing of semiconductors in India? Okay. India is looking to establish itself as a reliable presence in the semiconductor supply chain. However, there are some challenges faced by the semiconductor industry, such as capital-intensive industry. Now this is going to be your body if such a question is asked. Capital-intensive industry, limited access to technology, complexity of manufacturing process, lack of talent pool. That's so sad to hear. Lack of R&D in semiconductors, apprehensions of major players. So we go inside capital intensive industry. The semiconductor industry is capital intensive. No other industry has a similar level of investment in both R&D and capital expenditure. So here R&D is going 22% of annual semiconductor sales to electronic device makers. What does that mean? Investment in R&D, 22% of annual semiconductor sales to electronic device makers. So the device makers are like the phone manufacturers, and there are people who make the semiconductors, who sell these semiconductors to the device makers, and out of the sales, about 1/5 goes to R&D. Alright, and 26%, 1/4, goes to capital expenditure. According to a report commissioned by Semiconductor Industry Association (SIA), thereby making semiconductor fabrication an extremely capital intensive business with high entry barriers. Right, entry barriers, this is another important term to incorporate. I'm just doing it for my own language now. So this is SIA, Semiconductor Industry Association of India. This plays an important role, very important role in the policy pushes it gives to the government. And high entry barriers, this is one thing we can write. We'll just highlight these things. SIA, red gives the most highlighted effect. High entry barriers. Alright, limited access to technology. The closed ecosystem and limited access to technology are other challenges associated with manufacturing of semiconductors. Closed ecosystem and limited access to tech. The global semiconductor chip industry, because the world is already juj raha hai with semiconductor technology, with Taiwan and Netherlands being the pioneers in this, and even China doesn't have the technology yet. So that kind of technology, so there's definitely a problem in accessing the technology for the local manufacturing industries. Global semiconductor chip industry is dominated by some countries and a handful of companies. Taiwan and South Korea, okay, make up about 80% of the global foundry. Make up about 80% of the global foundry base for chips. Only one company, Netherlands-based ASML, produces EUV extreme ultraviolet lithography devices. So lithography is what the writing and printing on the silicon wafers is called. Without which it is not possible to make an advanced chip. It is nearly closed. It's a nearly closed manufacturing ecosystem with very high entry barriers. So we just go up here and we see there was an agreement made between India and Singapore, and this agreement particularly was about the ecosystem, manufacturing ecosystem, because it's a very, very closed ecosystem. All right, so Indian semiconductor manufacturing ecosystem plus Singapore's industry will together definitely have more access to technology. The access to technology is one challenge here, like it being capital intensive sector, and there's access to tech. And what we talk about access to technology here is there's 80% of the manufacturing is being done in South Korea and Taiwan, and there's ultraviolet lithography. Ultraviolet in Netherlands-based company, and it's very crucial. Perhaps we'll look at it in more detail. All right, so there's definitely high entry barriers. It's being repeatedly being said that the manufacturing environment ecosystem is closed and there are high entry barriers. All right, so we'll write these terms also. Closed ecosystem, for which India, yahi hoga, aise hi hoga. Closed ecosystem, when you write and you remember that India and Singapore are making this ecosystem partnership. That's how you start sequencing your arguments together, pairing your arguments with challenges with solutions, and this becomes a very customized point, your own point that you would want to write. So there's a closed ecosystem is a challenge in India Singapore ecosystem partnership, semiconductor ecosystem partnership. That's one thing, and the other thing I want to write is high entry barrier. Now what do we do about high entry barriers is also something we will write. The thing is, जो यहाँ पे लिख रहे हैं आप अपने notes में, you have got to rewrite them, arrange them better, and gradually it itself becomes the answer and the points that you will finally write in the exam, and that will fetch you the best marks. ऐसे रेडीमेड पॉइंट्स बनते हैं आपके खुद के, नॉट दी जो आपके इसमें मिलेंगे, जो भी कंपाइलेशंस वगैरह में होते हैं, वो चीज़ें सबको ही पढ़ लेते हैं, सभी रटते हैं, उसमें से कुछ जो चीज़ें याद रहती, सबके आंसर सिमिलर होते हैं. मेक योर कस्टम मेड products. So you're making products, something to sell perhaps. So high entry barriers. इसके लिए क्या करते हैं ये भी देखेंगे अपन. We'll do the math again. And now we are here at the last, third one, which is complexity of manufacturing process. Semiconductor manufacturing process is complex. There could be between 500 to 150 steps in the overall manufacturing process of semiconductor wafers, requiring multiple inputs that include silicon wafers, commodity chemicals, specialty chemicals, and other infrastructure prerequisites. Just clean water supply, this is one important thing, and uninterrupted power supply, these are two. So the other things needed are clean water supply, and uninterrupted. So we see कि semiconductor manufacturing is being pushed in India, but so the states in our competitive federalism mechanism, they are trying to compete to get the companies to invest in their state. So these are the things. There are some things that the state can supply as incentives for inviting investment and providing clean water supply. And the other thing is uninterrupted power supply. Are two of such things. Uninterrupted power supply. States can attract investments through some of these things. You have to make a mental map covering literally everything, connecting every point to every other point. You have to make that kind of map inside your head. Lack of talent pool. Now that's a harsh thing to say, but I wouldn't say talent, I would say skill. While India is the biggest back office for design engineers of all major chip companies, skilled talent that can work on factory floors of fabrication plant is still hard to come by. Okay, I would say skill, fab skill. You're doing the design in computers perhaps, but on the floor in the factory, that kind of expertise has to be, inculcated. Lack of R&D in semiconductors. India also currently lacks original research in semiconductor design, where the future of the chip is decided. Okay. अब हर जगह पे R&D पे टोटल एक्सपेंडिचर कितना है ऐसे डेटा यहाँ पे लिख देते हैं, बट यू बी स्पेसिफिक ना, मतलब सब ये वाला डेटा तो यू वोंट बिलीव, देयर विल बी सो मेनी पेपर्स. अगर ये वाला पॉइंट लिखेंगे तो ये वाला डेटा निकलेंगे, बट यू हैव टू बी अ लिटिल मोर स्पेसिफिक. अगर आपके पास है तो R&D इन सेमीकंडक्टर्स के ऊपर डेटा दे. मतलब you'll find so many papers writing the same thing कि 1.5% R&D in this, 1.5% R&D. Apprehensions of major players. It has been seen that major players in the semiconductor industry have apprehensions about policy stability in India, in India's semiconductor sector. तो ये generally कोई भी ऐसा question हो where you are incentivizing other companies from other countries to come invest in India. So there's always a policy instability, a question, dilemma that they have. There's policy instability, R&D lack of investment in that, and there's lack of skill. ठीक है, lack of skill. Okay, R&D expenditure and policy instability. All right. So here's Soumyarendra Barik writes, a cumbersome administrative structure, lack of experienced engineers, high tariffs on electronic component imports, and inadequate infrastructure. These are some of the challenges that India needs to address before the chip companies from the island territory, perhaps Taiwan, start to commit serious investments, a top Taiwanese government representative said. All right, so here in our diplomacy with Taiwan, we are majorly looking forward to Taiwanese semiconductor companies to start investing and transferring technology to India. So the problems they have are the cumbersome admin, and skill and high tariffs on electronic component imports and infra. Okay. Anil Sashi writes, also there's this opinion कि जितने ज़्यादा ऐसे नाम यूज़ करके लिखते हैं तो उतना बेटर होगा. नो, आप इवैल्यूएटर को गुमराह नहीं कर सकते. एटीट्यूड ये है कि मैं ये लिख दूंगा और इवैल्यूएटर ऐसे हो जाएगा. इवैल्यूएटर बच्चा नहीं है, मतलब तुम आप जैसे सोच रहे हो वैसे नहीं होता इवैल्यूएटर. एंड if you can't imagine what the evaluator is like, you think about the wisest person, your grandfather or somebody, जिनको आप अपना आंसर पढ़ा रहे हो, and they'll point at you कि ये R&D का डेटा मतलब फालतू का, if you do some just showbazi, it'll be very clear. But ये भी देखते हैं कि a lot of people doing the फालतू बाजी get into the list. मतलब of all the experience, I have seen that, and there's only a very top छोटा सा bracket जहाँ पे there's quality preparation and quality writing, and उसके बाद there begins a lot of फालतूगिरी. तो इसका मतलब ये है कि out of the people who appear for prelims, उसमें से भी जो सेलेक्ट होते हैं उसमें से मान लो 100 या कुछ भी बैरियर लगा लो 100, उसके अंदर और उसके बाहर उसमें भी एक ग्रेडियंट है, और उसके बाहर जो है you'll fall somewhere if you really do the faltugiri very well. But if you want to have it a short thing, you have to do it the right way. तुम कहीं किसी को फूल करने के एटीट्यूड में नहीं कर सकते कि ये भी लिख देंगे और कंक्लूजन में विकसित भारत लिख देंगे. That doesn't really impress. अगर सही में कुछ वैल्यू ऐड कर रहे हो आपके इसमें तब लिखो. जो एटीट्यूड बहुत लोगों का ऐसे होता है गुमराह करने का, और वो आगे जाके भी मतलब इस एग्ज़ाम के बारे में बहुत कुछ है बात करने के लिए. आई बीन रियलाइजिंग कि सिलेक्शन प्रोसेस कैसे है, कैसे लोग सेलेक्ट होते हैं इसमें, उनके उसके बाद उनका एटीट्यूड कैसे होता है. So अपन अच्छे से प्रिपेयर करते हैं. We'll do the right thing. Anil Sashi writes, in terms of policy, Taiwanese players share two major concerns. The fact that METI, the nodal ministry for overseeing the chip push, is not in charge of the skilling effort. See, एक और ये बात मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कि अपन जैसे कंपाइलेशंस या कुछ पढ़ते हैं उसमें पॉइंट वाइज छोटा छोटा लिखते हैं, तो वो ऑलरेडी एक आंसर फॉर्मेट में से देने की कोशिश करते हैं. That's not how you prepare for UPSC. वहाँ पे मतलब एक गाइड है, जैसे गाइड्स होते हैं 10th क्लास में, और कभी कभी गाइड्स होते हैं, गाइड में ऑलरेडी क्वेश्चन होता है, उसका आंसर होता है, और यही क्वेश्चन आने वाला होता है और रट के लिख देते हैं लोग, ऐसा होता है. तो ऐसे गाइड वाले सिस्टम में मत जाओ. आप जाइए, पूरे स्टोरी को पढ़िए, आप खुद समझिए, तब जाके आप जो लिखोगे उसमें आपको मज़ा आएगा. इस प्रोसेस को मज़ा वाला भी बनाना होता है, बिकॉज इट्स अ लॉन्ग जर्नी, एंड घिस के लोग बहुत ज़्यादा डिप्रेस हो जाते हैं. यू हैव टू हैव फन while doing this process. It's a huge project, so take it up, and एक फिल्म बनाने जैसा उससे भी बड़ा चीज़ है ये. So you take it up as that kind of project and give it give it the best. Time दो उसको और actually पढ़ो, not just passing the time that मुझे पता है कि I have also been through these phases, but actually sincerity process में सही sincerity होनी चाहिए. The nodal ministry for overseeing the chip push is not in charge of the skilling effort. ये बोल रहे हैं कि MEITI है उसका ministry of skill development है, skill development and entrepreneurship, which is a different ministry. The other issue is India's unpredictable trade policy, where duties and new licensing norms are imposed overnight. And the direction of the tariff lines is broadly moving upwards. Okay, sudden. तो ये चीज़ें हैं. अनिल शशि लिख रहे हैं कि MEITI अलग है, स्किल डेवलपमेंट अलग है, इंटीग्रेटेड नहीं है, and trade policy unpredictable है. Points to ponder. What measures should be taken to tackle the challenges faced by the semiconductor industry in India? So we will ponder upon the points to face these challenges, but perhaps we should read the article first completely. So देख लीजिए एक बार पॉइंट्स पे. ऐसे challenges capital intensive है बहुत, access to technology कम है, closed ecosystem है, high entry barriers है, clean water supply and uninterrupted power supply चाहिए होता है, lack of skill and MEITI और इसमें division और R&D में इन्वेस्टमेंट कम, पॉलिटिकल इंस्टेबिलिटी, दैट इज ट्रेड पॉलिसी इधर उधर होते रहता है, और तारिफ जनरली ऊपर ही जाते जा रहा है. सो व्हाट इज द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन हियर? उसके सॉल्यूशंस विल फाइनली फाइंड आउट परहैप्स. व्हाट इज इंडियाज डोमेस्टिक पॉलिसी ऑन सेमीकंडक्टर्स? द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया not only acknowledges the economic and geopolitical importance of the semiconductor industry, but also recognizes the shortcomings of the Indian semiconductor sector. As a result, various steps have been taken by the government from time to time to boost domestic semiconductor manufacturing. So this is how an introduction looks like. It's a good introduction, right? Question is about what's India's domestic policy on semiconductors. So यहाँ पे बोल रहे हैं India not only acknowledges the importance but also recognizes the shortcomings. And as a result, various steps have been taken by government from time to time to boost it. प्यारा है ये पढ़ के your brain will start आपको internalize करना है ये चीज़. इसने क्या बोला? पहले बोला कि इंडिया सिर्फ उसका डायरेक्शन ये नहीं है, it also recognizes the problems and solutions. This is such a model introduction for many things. I mean, there's a broad direction and you also talk about challenge and steps. ये totally picture दिखा देता है कोई भी सेक्टर में क्या चल रहा है. Okay, तो शिवाजीत रॉय says writes supply disruption during COVID-19 pandemic. अब ये ऐसा ये कि ये इंट्रोडक्शन रटना नहीं है, आपको ये अंदर से जनरेट करने का कैपेसिटी इम्प्रूव करना है. ये चीज़ है, and it will develop over time. It will just keep pushing in the right direction. So supply disruptions during COVID-19 pandemic and the geopolitical tensions arising out of China's aggressive moves in Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea have brought urgency to India's efforts to develop its own semiconductor system. Okay, COVID-19 एक चीज़ है and the wars और Taiwan Strait में problems. Okay, global chip industry is dominated by companies from a very small number of countries. Global industry, and India is a late entrant into this high-tech and expensive race. Entry barrier is high. In February, the cabinet approved semiconductor-related projects, adding up to investments of about 1.26 lakh crore. Okay, cabinet approved investments. And the government the same month announced a partnership between the Tata Group and Taiwan's Power Chip Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, PSMC. Tata Group's contribution here, Tata plus Taiwan's company. to set up a semiconductor manufacturing plant in Gujarat. Alright, everything goes to Gujarat. The cabinet has so far approved 5 semiconductor units. Cabinet approvals. Okay. So polity maybe when you discuss, you see here the cabinet is approving these things. The ministry MeitY hai, and there's the commerce hai, there's और कौन से maybe MSME no जो भी है या फिर empowered groups है और cabinet committees है. Ultimately यहाँ पे cabinet is making the decisions here, including semiconductor चीज़ में. If you mention this, it will add serious weight to your point when you say cabinet has approved 5 semiconductor units. This will be huge, including 4 assembly units and under the incentive scheme. So 4 assembly units हैं इनमें से, कुछ fabrication units होंगे. India Semiconductor Mission. The India Semiconductor Mission was launched in 2021. It's a strategic initiative undertaken by the government of India to promote the domestic semiconductor industry. Its goal is to improve the semiconductor design and manufacturing capabilities domestically and to encourage innovation, employment and economic growth. India's Semiconductor Mission operates under the guidance of the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MeitY, and other relevant government bodies. The key, so ये है India Semiconductor Mission, India. The key objectives of the India Semiconductor Mission include developing a strong semiconductor ecosystem in India, encouraging indigenous semiconductor design and manufacturing, fostering collaboration between industry, academia and research institutions, promoting skill development and talent acquisition in the semiconductor field, attracting investments and driving innovation in semiconductor technologies. Attracting investments and driving innovation. Semicon India program. The government has launched the Semicon India program with a total outlay of 76,000 crores to provide financial support to companies investing in semiconductors, display manufacturing and design ecosystems. This will help in development of the semiconductor and display manufacturing ecosystem in the country. So display manufacturing is also part of this ecosystem. Display MFG, and you know how much important is the display these days. And so here's the Semiconductor India program. And the government is supporting financially the companies investing in semiconductors. The program has further been modified in view of the aggressive incentives offered by countries. There's a lot of competition. Already having an established semiconductor ecosystem and a limited number of companies owning advanced node technologies. Okay, the following 4 schemes have been introduced under the Semicon India program. The Semicon India program aims to strengthen India's position in the situation where there's aggressive global competition for attracting investments. So what's India doing here? It has revamped its perhaps modified scheme for setting up semiconductor fabs. We want fabs in India. Modified scheme for setting up display fabs. Modified scheme for setting up of compound semiconductors, silicon photonics, sensors, fabs, semiconductor assembly, testing. ये चीज़ें याद रखनी है. ATMP, assembly, testing, marking and packaging. Assembly, testing, marking and packaging and OSAT facilities. ATMP. Maybe is going to be a these words have more weight when you use them in your answers, right? Semicon India Future Design linked in incentive DLI scheme. Design linked incentive hai, then there's PLI. Of course everybody is going to write PLI, but we see there's modified scheme for setting up whatever. ATMP एक चीज़ है, एंड डिज़ाइन लिंक्ड स्कीम, मतलब चीज़ें इनमें से कुछ ही चीज़ें याद रहेंगी, बट द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट इसमें से सार निकालना है बेसिकली. So there's a lot of global competition, and so India has been revamping its policy and been incentivizing design-linked incentives through DLI, incentivizing through the DLI, and there's ATMP push for ATMP, etc. So basically, आपको story जाननी है, and there are some words that you need to know, and the work will be done. Semicon. And trust me, the work will be done. Had I given the entire, the last papers also, you would have known. You would have known. But क्या करूँ? But क्या करें? अभी it's so difficult for me to look back at this thing, these letters and these subjects and all. It hurts कि I was really in a very good position and everything was going so well. I'm going to be a bit, talking about this because I have to get over it, and I don't know if you can imagine how it really feels having gone through that. Semicon India 2024 was organized by India Semiconductor Mission in partnership with SEMI and ये भी था Semiconductor Industry Association of India in Greater Noida, and this year's theme is shaping the semiconductor future. Okay, it aims to position India as a trusted partner in global semiconductor supply chain. We want to be a part of it to drive forward the vision of India's semiconductor mission. Yeah, okay, and thus, oops, sorry that you cannot see this area. Thus, we can say that India's strategies related to the semiconductor sector are comprehensive and focused on boosting all three aspects of the semiconductor ecosystem. So, we are at page 7, page 5. We got to go 4 more pages. Boosting all three aspects, India's strategy, boosting all three aspects of the semiconductor ecosystem. That is packaging unit. So, now here we write. So, packaging, ATMP को expand करेंगे. Units called ATMP. Okay, ATMP unit packaging के लिए है. Then assembly and testing projects called OSAT plants. Okay, and full scale foundries that manufacture chips. Then OSAT plants. Alright, you don't have to fret over these words when they appear. यहाँ पे ये दिख गया, यहाँ पे ये दिख गया. तो एकदम से ये नहीं होना है कि ये क्या है, अभी इसको खोलते हैं आ जाएगा चीज़, because it's a comprehensive article. Trust in the material you have, not every kind of material, but you can trust on things like this. So OSAT plants, इसीलिए मैं ये पढ़ता हूँ, not some random material made by somebody. Vision के अच्छे होते हैं, but there are people खुद के they are starting materials that's not reliable. You can't blindly just follow somebody else's paths. Okay, but there's something really called expertise and knowledge and experience and stuff, and you should follow that. I'm not saying follow me, I'm saying follow Indian Express. So OSAT plants and ATMP plants, ये दो चीज़ें हैं, नाम है. ATMP में ATMP हमने देखा कि क्या है, assembly testing marking packaging. Or OSAT plans are also talking about assembly and testing. So basically, broadly, the things, the parts, the components of the manufacturing process are assembly, testing, okay, and marking and packaging. ये assembly, testing, marking, packaging ये एक चीज़ है, but उससे पहले there is fabrication. So this is the entire process. So we are going to draw this. There is fabrication, all right. उसके बाद so इसमें Netherlands का काफ़ी heavy हाथ है. And then there's assembly. Fabrication के पहले design आएगा, obviously. Design, fabrication, assembly, testing, marking. पैकेजिंग, ये ब्रॉडली आ जाता है ATMP में, एंड फैब्रिकेशन और ATMP प्लस OSAT में असेंबली एंड टेस्टिंग ये वाला पार्ट आता है, एंड दिस गोज फॉर पैकेजिंग और दिस डिज़ाइन एंड फैब्रिकेशन. सो इतने सारे पार्ट्स हैं इसके प्रोसेस के. सो नाउ वी लुक एट according to express opinion in a message from Moody's, government must handhold semiconductor industries. The government handholding is needed. Government support handholding is needed for India's semiconductor mission to be successful. Experts have rightly pointed out that government's plan to make India a semiconductor hub would require not just financial backing but also investments in talent development. So, talent. Now, a report by the global rating firm Moody's has underlined another challenge. Climate change can damage manufacturing facilities, disrupt supply chains, and lead to significant financial losses. Alright, ये इस साल की केस स्टडी में भी एक ये चीज़ था, इसी चीज़ पे केस स्टडी था कि क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से कोई कंपनी ये शायद चिप मैन्युफैक्चरिंग या AI रिलेटेड कुछ काम करता था, उसके कुछ इफेक्ट्स थे, उसके वजह से उसको जो भी था पढ़ लेना वो केस स्टडी शायद. मैं I just wanted to let all of you know कि it really, I mean, it is difficult for me to look at all these things again, but I'm doing it. So ये है टैलेंट इन दिस क्लाइमेट चेंज जिस पे फोकस है. क्लाइमेट चेंज के बारे में सोचेंगे बिकॉज ये भी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट हो जाता है लिखना. आई थिंक वी शुड मेंशन दैट इन आवर चैलेंजेस थिंग. ठीक, क्लाइमेट चेंज भी एक प्रॉब्लम है. क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से सप्लाई चेन्स में डिस्ट्रप्शन आ सकते हैं या फिर it really is bothersome. The process, if it is not climate friendly, how can we make the semiconductor manufacturing a sustainable industry? So the report warns that risks posed by global warming could deter investments in industry and come in the way of India realizing its ambition of becoming a chip-making hub. The message from Moody's report is clear. The government will have to handhold industry, invest in climate-resilient infrastructure, and nudge fab units to adopt sustainable practices. So what we need for climate change is to develop climate-resilient resilient infra, and to nudge fabs for sustainable processes, sustainable fabs. All right. So the next here is what is the significance of indigenization of the semiconductor ecosystem? Significance, thought process. How do you think? Highlight the significance of indigenization of semiconductor ecosystem through connecting it with the economy import bills India mission to Atmanirbhar Bharat, of course. Yeah. A look at the semiconductor materials imported from other countries. So, okay, let's do this exercise. So, significance of domestic manufacturing. किस लिए है? Because this is the sunrise sector, very lucrative, the new oil, and India definitely wants to have its share of earning from this. Whenever a new technology comes up, there's always a scope for some countries to earn and some countries to become more dependent. So India wants to be a part of the supply chain so that it can make some money out of it, and also it can reduce dependency on countries like China, and also the import bills will reduce and exports will happen. And the thing is minerals required for the manufacturing, they are distributed unequally on the planet, and some countries hold a monopoly on them. And the climate change thing is one thing, and there's a thing about the technology, and we have Netherlands and South Korea and stuff. We are inviting Taiwan to invest in India and transfer perhaps some technology, but you need governance reforms to do that. All right, so we go to the question number 4. What is the role of international collaboration in the development of semiconductor industry in India? So the question number 4, actually अब ज़्यादा कुछ बचा नहीं है. So ये सीधा पूछ रहा है कि इंटरनेशनल कोलैबोरेशन में क्या डेवलपमेंट है. तो ये इंडिया यूएस पार्टनरशिप, एंड जैसे हम बात कर रहे थे सिंगापुर सेमीकंडक्टर इकोसिस्टम पार्टनरशिप, देन EU के साथ क्या पैक्ट है, जापान एंड ताइवान के साथ क्या है, एंड दैट्स इट. दैट उसके बाद देयर आर अ फ्यू क्वेश्चंस हियर, प्रीलिम्स के एंड देन मेंस का एक क्वेश्चन. सो this is how we do it, right? This is the right way to do it. So I think we'll be thorough with the semiconductor business here, and then we'll keep adding up whatever is going to be developing. ऐसे उसके बाद when you study the newspaper and there's some development in the semiconductor sector, so you add it up in these notes, so that it becomes an answer of your own. This is how we prepare for a topic. And GS3 is mostly done topic wise. So the tailwinds will begin. The tailwinds, what is the question? What is the role of international collaboration in the development of the semiconductor industry in India? The tailwinds, of course, international collaboration का ही बहुत बड़ा role है, because indigenous अभी technology आया नहीं है. The tailwinds are helping India progress in semiconductors. Tailwinds, right? जैसे जब कोई फ्लाइट है यहाँ पे, एंड ये जब लैंड होता है तो इसको हेडविंड बोलते हैं, और जो पीछे की तरफ से आ रहे हैं उसको टेलविंड्स बोलते हैं. सो इज दैट राइट? आई थिंक जब टेलविंड चलता है तो इट बिकम्स डिफिकल्ट फॉर द फ्लाइट टू स्टॉप at the right place. जब tailwinds चलते हैं तो थोड़ा सा आगे जाके रुकता है, ऐसा चलता है. headwinds चलते हैं तो it helps landing. Anyway, so the tailwinds are helping India progress in semiconductors. Our cooperation and partnerships. तो ये बोल रहे हैं कि tailwinds चल रहा है अभी इंडिया के लिए, एंड इंडिया के लिए और पुश मिल रहा है because of the international situation. It's a good time for India. Our cooperation and partnerships with US and EU and Japan and Korea are tailwinds for our ambitions in semiconductors and electronics. The countries which thought they were ahead of us have headwinds with export control that are working against them, right? So headwinds यहाँ पे is a problem. When you talk about ठीक है, that's a good word by the way, tailwinds are helping us. So we have a unique opportunity in electronics design of semiconductors and semiconductor design at the same time, electronics design and semiconductor design at the same time. And former Minister of State for Electronics and IT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, said he contested against Shashi Tharoor in Thiruvananthapuram and lost. So he's not he's not a minister in this government. We will discuss all these subjects together. All right. This statement of the former Minister of IT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, clearly reflects the crucial role of international collaboration in the semiconductor industry. In this context, we see that India is collaborating with some countries in the field of semiconductors, such as global tailwinds are helping India, all right, Indian semiconductor industry. So we look at the India-US partnership. On September 9, 2024, the US announced a new partnership with India. to explore semiconductor supply chain opportunities, which will include a comprehensive assessment of India's existing semiconductor ecosystem, the regulatory framework, that's what they want, the workforce, all right, infrastructure needs, and the ecosystem. They're going to examine these things. So what are the components here? Again, the same topic, the same thing is divided in multiple things in multiple dimensions. So what are we talking about here? The regulatory framework, the infrastructure, right, and the workforce, and what was the first one? Technology, pollution, semiconductor ecosystem, existing ecosystem. So these are the criteria that the international investors look at. Existing ecosystem. So, okay, international criteria for international collaboration, इन्वेस्टमेंट, और भी है, जैसे वी हैव डिस्कस्ड कि पॉलिसी स्टेबिलिटी चाहिए, रिसोर्सेज, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर यहीं पे आ जाता है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर यहाँ पे आ जाता है, उसी में रिसोर्सेज एंड क्लीन वाटर, पावर सप्लाई, ये सब आ जाते हैं. सो पॉलिसी सपोर्ट इज ऑल्सो वन थिंग, पॉलिसी स्टेबिलिटी इज वन थिंग. ऑलराइट, सो India and the US had signed the Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) on semiconductor supply chain and innovation partnership during Commercial Dialogue 2023. Okay, India and US का एक MOU है on semiconductor supply chain and innovation partnership. ठीक है, एक MOU है इस partnership पे, ठीक, semiconductor चीज़ पे. There'll be much better things to note. ओके, इंडिया के साथ अभी यूएस ने रिसेंटली एक और न्यू पार्टनरशिप अनाउंस किया है, पार्टनरशिप. सो ये लिख देते हैं, एक MOU प्लस अ न्यू पार्टनरशिप. इंडिया सिंगापुर, डोंट हैव टू फ्रेट इट, जहाँ पे है you flow with your ease, enjoy your process, and it'll fetch you results. I'm telling you 100%, if you do the sincere work, this is not a tough nut to crack. I mean, it is a tough one, it is, but you are much more capable than that. And those who underestimate themselves, and there's this general attitude in people यहाँ पे कि generally अपने आप को थोड़ा underestimate करते हैं, थोड़ा सा सहमे, मतलब lack of confidence है बहुत ज़्यादा, और उसको बहुत लोग उसको बहुत तरीक़ों से utilize, exploit करते हैं. The general lack of confidence in people. So stay strong यार, stay strong. मतलब क्यों under confident होना कुछ भी, मतलब you have come a long way already in life, and you have a lot of potential and abilities and capacities. You just have to give it some time अपने आप को. इंडिया सिंगापुर सेमीकंडक्टर इकोसिस्टम पार्टनरशिप, सिंगापुर के साथ सेमीकंडक्टर इकोसिस्टम पार्टनरशिप. प्राइम मिनिस्टर मिस्टर मोदी and his Singaporean counterpart Lawrence Wong witnessed the exchange of another MOU regarding ecosystem partnership, semiconductor ecosystem Vajradanti partnership. Shubhajit Roy writes, 9 of the world's top 15 semiconductor firms have set up shop in Singapore, and the Singapore sector contributes significantly to the country's the semiconductor sector contributes significantly to the country's economic growth. Singapore has players in all segments of the semiconductor value chain. So this is called a segment. जो हम यहाँ पे लिख रहे हैं, ये जो है, these are called segments, you know. Vocabulary updated. All right, segments of a sector. And so integrated IC design, assembly, packaging, testing, wafer fabrication, wafer का भी अलग है, then design, printing का अलग है, then ATMP है, then equipment and raw material production, the machines that do this, the 3D printers and stuff, वो भी, एंड सो यहाँ पे अपने खड़े हैं प्राइम मिनिस्टर एंड वोंग, ऑल राइट, लास्ट वीक, अच्छा September 5th, ठीक है. फ्रॉम न्यू दिल्ली's perspective, there's scope for collaboration with Singapore in talent development and knowledge sharing about the best practices in managing semiconductor industrial parks called wafer fab parks in Singapore. And there is also a scope for India to engage in and collaborate with semiconductor equipment and material manufacturers in Singapore to develop its own semiconductor manufacturing ecosystem. So India के लिए semiconductor यहाँ पे ecosystem partnership में हो क्या रहा है? सिंगापुर के साथ ecosystem partnership, सिंगापुर semiconductor ecosystem वज्रतंती, eco वज्रतंती पार्टनरशिप, आयुर्वेदिक जड़ी बूटियों से बना है ये वज्रतंती. तो यहाँ पे चल क्या रहा है? तो सिंगापुर का जो गवर्नमेंट है, ठीक है, गवर्नमेंट है, उसने कुछ फैब्स बना के रखे हैं. तो फैब मैनेजमेंट टेक्निक्स एट्सेट्रा एंड बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस इंडिया सीख सकता है. और जो प्लेयर्स हैं वहाँ पे, जो डिफरेंट सेगमेंट्स जो प्लेयर्स हैं, उनको भी इंडिया एक्सेस कर सकता है. ऑलराइट, फैब्स के बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस एंड प्लेयर्स ऑफ वेरियस सेगमेंट्स. Okay, so we will just add the word best practices here. Best practices. All right. So the next is the EU. India-EU Semiconductor Pact. But what is this here? Given the critical importance of semiconductor chips in almost everything, from missiles to mobile phones and cars to computers and partnerships, the partnerships with Singapore and US have a geostrategic and geoeconomic importance. Geostrategic, of course, the semiconductor supply chain is a very important element of the current geostrategy game going on. India-EU Semiconductor Pact. India and the European Union have signed another MOU on cooperation in the semiconductor ecosystem, which will facilitate investments. यूरोप के साथ हम बात कर रहे हैं investments की and joint ventures and technology partnerships, including manufacturing facilities and stuff. And India-Japan chip supply partnership. Chip supply. Last year, Union Cabinet approved another MOU with Japan, between India and Japan, on developing a semiconductor supply chain partnership that will focus on R&D and manufacturing design talent development. Talent development is another thing. India-Taiwan. Tata is building India's first commercial fabrication plant along with its Taiwanese partner Power Chip Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation (PSMC) for a cost of more than 91,000 crore. Okay, so we'll just take a few more lines here. So Singapore के साथ there's also this talent development pact. All right, and we are doing this with USA and Japan, and are we doing this with South Korea? With Taiwan, Tata is collaborating, manufacturing in Gujarat, first commercial manufacturing plant. USA, Japan, and this EU. All right. With all of these, we have some MOUs and points to ponder. What are the challenges and opportunities with international collaboration in the semiconductor industry? Challenges and opportunities, right? We have to analyze this. We're not doing everything. अभी भी मतलब you read the paper and you start thinking of these things. Which nation? We'll also read the paper in the channel. Which nation holds the distinction of being the primary source of semiconductors on a global scale? I think it's Taiwan, right? Why is Taiwan important for India, right? Let's do these questions. The application of semiconductor covers. The application of semiconductor covers the IC design, packaging and testing, raw material production, wafer fabrication, The application of semiconductor covers. What does that mean? I mean, looking at this, all we have read all these terms, even raw material production. I think it'll be this one. Well, let's see. We'll look at it at the end. Yeah. With reference to the semiconductor industry, consider the following statements. The Indian government has created a dedicated task force called the India Semiconductor Mission, which aims to serve as a focal point for an efficient implementation of India's chip ambitions. Sounds right. More than 90% of world's most advanced chips required for almost all electronic equipment such as smartphones, car components, data centers, fighter jets, and AI technologies are made in South Korea. Is that so? No. This about 80% is coming from South Korea and Taiwan. That's the fact. So this is how also the newspapers help us. I mean, the questions don't directly come from your compilations. They might not have had this point that these guys have discussed. So it's better to have a broad source for prelims, broad base of sources. Which of the above statements are correct? I would say only one. And India is set to launch its inaugural national security semiconductor fabrication plant in collaboration with. They're set to launch its inaugural, in collaboration with. It is what? India is set to launch its inaugural national security semiconductor fabrication plant in collaboration with what? So who are we cooperating with in defense thing? See, this is national security thing. The commercial semiconductor fabrication plant was being done by Tata and Taiwan. We will have to take a chota sa guess here, I guess. So we'll see. And what's the main question? Why is India aiming to become self-sufficient in chip manufacturing? So we'll talk about the exports, imports bill, and the dependency and Atmanirbharta and security at times of crisis and supply chain. What else? And forex, of course. I mean, it's all covered in that little circle we make. And highlight the government, and whatever we choose, we go into detail, and we अगर export के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं तो we go into detail and mention these words also. Forex भी mention करेंगे. Alright, highlight the government initiatives to strengthen India's semiconductor ecosystem. Highlight the government initiatives to strengthen this. So there's India Semiconductor Mission, and what else would you say? This Semicon 2024 that was conducted, and what else? We would say there's design linked incentives, DLI, and there's financial support to companies, and there's collaboration with international leaders, and there are adoption of best practices from countries like Singapore and fab manufacturing areas में जैसे, and what else? Research and development, academia, linkages and supporting private industry, and perhaps skill के तरफ कुछ. What else? I mean, इससे भर जाना चाहिए जितने वर्ड्स हैं. और कुछ मिस हो गया, याद नहीं आया तो वो भी याद कर लेंगे अपन. वो भी अपन देख लेंगे. आपको कुछ याद आ रहा हो तो आप याद कीजिए. We'll just look at this. DAB. So this one's fine, and this one's fine, and this one's fine. It's United States. US के साथ we have been doing a lot of defense cooperation. Alright, so US के साथ हमने national security related semiconductor fabrication, ये recently हमने एक agreement किया था. SOSA बोलते हैं उसको. I think security of supply chain agreement, उसका ये part होगा. Alright, so that's it for this video. आगे से हम will do these topics one by one, and we'll talk. We'll make it interesting. We'll try to, whatever. So this is how we're gonna do, and perhaps इसका एक आई डोंट थिंक इसका एक छोटा सा वीडियो बना दूँ या बन सकता है एक्सप्लेनिंग इट, तो मज़ा नहीं आता. इफ़ यू लिसन टू द स्टोरी, एंटायर स्टोरी, तभी जाके यू नो थिंग्स बैठती हैं आपके दिमाग में. इफ़ यू हैव लिसन टू दिस वीडियो यहाँ तक, देन डेफिनेटली अगर इस पर कोई भी क्वेश्चन या कुछ भी ओपिनियन या वॉट एवर यू हैव टू से ऐसा कुछ होता है, यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू गो ब्लैंक. यू ऑलरेडी नो अबाउट दिस. आई मीन ठीक ठाक. I mean, you have some idea of what it is, even if you don't remember names and stuff, but you know what semiconductor push actually is, right? So we'll see you in some other video, and I'll increase the frequency of making these videos. We'll cover the essentials from October ka pehle we'll cover everything. We'll also do articles from newspapers. Generally newspaper mein I go through the newspaper ones and then I select some articles which are really important. I read most of it, but सब चीज़ का यहाँ पे देने का कोई point नहीं है. So we'll do that exercise also. And also I've been working with okay, ठीक है, वो सब बाद में. So this is it for now. Yeah. So see you guys, and so thanks if somebody has reached this point of the video. I've actually received good compliments from some people कि my stupid videos have been useful, और जो भी. मुझे लगता है कि ऐसे you have to study the thing, give it some time, at least an hour to study the topic. आपको बस मतलब you only want to give 5 minutes to the semiconductor thing, and you want to write a good answer on it. No, you have to give it certain time. You should give a topic of an hour and digest it, and then you'll have your own opinion when you talk to others about it. अकेले ये सब पढ़ाई करना, it takes a lot of strength, but I have no other way but to be strong right now. So I'm going to use this strength, but इसको शेयर करने पे आपसे मुझे एक्चुअली ये स्ट्रेंथ मिलता है to generate this power. Imagine if the world was so lonely and everybody was so disconnected and I had no access to some listeners like you, तो मेरा जर्नी और भी डिफ़िकल्ट होता है. वो इट वुड हैव बीन अ मच सैडर प्लेस. इट्स मच बेटर बिकॉज आई कैन यू नो शेयर दिस विथ यू गाइस. आई थिंक शेयरिंग इज़ रियली empowering, and it helps you know be in a sane stable mind, not go depressed or something when some natural calamity happens. All right, so yeah, we'll meet in the next video, and we'll talk more, we'll interact more, and I'll play some songs also, bad ones. I'm a storyteller, so I'll try to keep you guys engaged and make this journey less lonely, I guess. So that's it, people. Thank you. Bye. Good night.